Hey friends, it is MAZIE with Barbecue by MAZIE. If you are new here, you, my friend, are in for quite the treat. And if you are coming back, I truly appreciate the support for my channel. It is a beautiful morning. The birds are chirping, my smoker's on, and I got a big hunk of meat sitting in front of me. Doesn't get much better than that. Today, we're smoking this chuck roast like a brisket. Not sure if you've been to the store lately, but brisket prices are very high. Now, I understand smoking a brisket is fun, and sometimes you truly do need all that meat, but sometimes you don't. And that's when you smoke a chuck roast. This bad girl's weighing in at 3.39 pounds, only $16. When I was at the store, the briskets were in the 80s and 90s. I ain't made out of money. So I'm gonna stop yapping and we are gonna jump in and smoke this chuck roast. Let's go. When you're at the store looking for a chuck roast, try and find one that's got some good marbling in it. That fat is going to render down and make it tender. I'm gonna add a little W sauce just for a binder, just like I would for a brisket. Today I am using Pit Boss Kansas City barbecue rub. I'm going to season it liberally, pat it in, flip it over to the other side. Now, if your chuck roast has a bunch of fat on it, trim that off, but this one doesn't have a ton of extra fat that I think needs to come off, so we just opened it and got down. Don't forget your edges. All right, so I have my Pit Boss Navigator preheated to 250 degrees. That's where we're gonna be at the entirety of this cook. A picture of me and my meat. All right, let's get this chuck roast on the smoker. The next step is to make sure our poor little roast never gets too thirsty. We're gonna spritz it throughout this next step about every 45 minutes to an hour. But when that meat starts to look kind of dry, we are going to spritz it, which is my favorite part because I get to come outside and chill with the smoker. It's good vibes. I'm gonna head inside. I'm gonna get a cold Diet Coke going, and then we are gonna check on this chuck roast in about 40 minutes. Let's go. So we're about 45-50 minutes into the cook, and I just wanted to show you what our chuck roast looks like. I'm not going to spritz it yet because this rub is not quite stuck on there. See, when I touch it with my finger, the rub is coming off on my finger. That means if we spritz it, we might just end up spraying some of our rub off, and we don't want to do that. So we're just gonna let it keep smoking, and we'll check on it here in about 20-30 minutes. All right, so it's been about an hour and this chuck roast is ready to be spritzed. For my spritzing mixture, there's really a ton of options. Today I am using apple juice with a little bit of water. You could use straight water, you could use some beef broth. Really, the options are endless. Just make sure you're not skipping out on the spritzing process because this is going to help us build that nice, delicious bark that we want on a brisket, or in this case, a chuck roast. So let's jump on in there and give it a spritz. You can kind of see how our chuck roast is beginning to crack a little bit and look a little dry. That's how we know it's time to spritz. Just gonna get the whole surface nice and moist. We'll come check on it in about another 45 minutes to an hour. All right, coming in at the 2.5 hour mark for a temperature check. We're at 130. All right, we're not going to wrap yet, but we are going to spritz because you can see it's a little dry. So 2.5 mark, giving it another spritzaroonie. Our roast has been on the smoker a little over 3 hours. We're pretty close to that 150 mark, so I am going to get ready to wrap this roast. Okay, so we want us a nice long piece of butcher paper. I like to use butcher paper. If you don't have butcher paper, foil will work. Foil is going to soften your bark, and butcher paper will kind of hold that bark in place. So either one will get the job done. Also, you don't have to wrap it all. This does just speed up this portion of the cooking just a little bit. We're gonna get this roast. Oh, that looks nice. We're just gonna wrap it like a present. Okay, so we've got our brisket wrapped in butcher paper. Remember, we're at about the 150 mark internal temperature. So now it's just gonna go back in the smoker at 250 degrees, and we're just gonna let it smoke until it's completely finished and tender. I'm gonna head inside, crack a nice cold Diet Coke, and we'll see you back out here in an hour and a half. Let's go. All right, so it's been 2 hours since we wrapped and put it back on the smoker. So now we're going to do a temperature check and see where we're at. All right, so we're reading 155. That means we are thoroughly in the stall. We're just going to leave it on the smoker still at 250, and this cook is taking a little bit longer than I expected, but that's okay. The end result is going to be delicious. So I'm gonna head inside, and I'm not gonna come check on this meat for probably another hour to 2 hours. I'm serious. All right, I'll see you back out here in a little bit. Okay, so truthfully, this chuck roast has taken way longer than I expected to, and sometimes it just do be like that. When it hit the stall hard, and it stayed there for a long time, even after I wrapped it. The total cook time on this chuck roast came out to be about 9 hours, and about the past hour and a half, 2 hours, I bumped the smoker temperature up to 300 just to nudge it along a little bit. My little girl has soccer tonight, and I'm a coach, so we gotta get going here. So the internal temperature is 202, but honestly, I don't care about the internal temperature as much as when I use my probe on my thermopin, it slides into the meat like butter. There's very little resistance. That is what you're looking for. So the internal temperature is more of a guide, but really what you want to look for is how tender your meat is. That's how you're gonna know when she's done. Just like a brisket, now we are going to rest it. I would recommend resting at least 30 minutes if you can. You can really rest this thing for several hours if you have it wrapped up and in a cooler and you're maintaining a high enough internal temperature to keep the meat safe. The longer you rest, it's only going to help it become more and more tender. So make sure, I always say, do not skip on the resting portion of your cook, and don't be like me and have to rush through this part. Unfortunately, I am only going to be able to rest mine for 30 minutes, but it's better than nothing. I am going to get this brisket wrapped up and ready for its nap. So I just want to show you what it means to pro with little to no resistance. See how it just slides right in with very little effort. Look at all those juices. Okay, so welcome you back after a short little rest period. I wish I had more time, but I want to slice into this brisket and show you how we did. All right, remember to slice against the grain. I started cutting it the wrong way there. All right, I want to bring you in close, see how we did. Nice little smoke ring on there. Looks good to me. Pretty bendy, pretty floppy. Looks pretty good to me. Let's take a taste and see how we did. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Is it good? Yes. Is it better than a brisket? No. Not better than a brisket, but it comes in handy when you're wanting a brisket-like meat. Chuck roast is the meat I would recommend you go to. Listen, if you've watched this far, will you comment below, sprinkle kitty, just so I know who's sticking with me till the very end of these videos. You guys have no idea how excited I get when I see these comments rolling in that you've watched it this far. It just makes me so darn excited.
Alright, you guys, this cook ended up being longer than I expected, but it was fun hanging out with you today. I hope you enjoyed this cook as much as I did. We will see you back here next time.